What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another episode of the Transfer Show. We're up to episode 11 already, and I feel like we're getting towards end game now in the summer 2025 transfer window. And over the last few days, it's been a bit crazy, in particular about Gigi Donnarumma and also Rodrygo from Real Madrid. So before I do crack on with today's stream, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, then do subscribe to my channel. It is free to subscribe. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day here on YouTube with all the latest City transfer news. So if you haven't already, do subscribe to my channel. It is free. Social media links are in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up. We're aiming for 200 likes today, and do get your thoughts as well. If you're watching this after the stream, then in the comments below, or alternatively feel free to pop into the chat and say hello. Just a warm welcome to everybody for tuning in, much appreciated. So welcome Akon Dip, much appreciated. Naser, thanks for tuning in. Havard, thank you for tuning in. Say, thanks for tuning in. Task, thanks for tuning in. Welcome Adrian as well, much appreciated. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Muli Arlam, thank you for tuning in as well. Barry, thanks for tuning in. Ryan, thank you for tuning in. Dalton, thank you for tuning in. Kieran, thank you for tuning in. Christian, thank you for tuning in. And Messi, thank you for tuning in as well. Welcome Manchester as well. Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated. So we'll put a bit of context onto these transfers because I suspect that this is going to be Manchester City's focus over the next week or so. Manchester City want some clarity about what their first team squad is going to look like. We know that obviously Jack Grealish has already left this week to go to Everton on loan. We're expecting Claudio Echeverri to be following Vita Hayes out of the loan door as well. I suspect City want some clarity about Zaveri Naipan, and they also need to sort out the future of Stefan Ortega Moreno. They're all the loose ends that we've got in our squad. Then it's just about players who may not want to be at Manchester City. So obviously Calvin Phillips, we need to sort his future out. And then if there's anybody else who's wanting to leave, or if there's any interest coming in from other clubs, then obviously we can have a good look at that and then decide as to whether then players want to leave. You can choose to sell them or try and keep hold of them, which is very much the case of what we're looking at with Ederson and Savinho, which is where these rumours have come from when it comes to Rodrygo and Gigi Donnarumma. So firstly, we'll start with the goalkeeping situation. Once more, I thought we were done with the goalkeeping situation. It turns out we're not done with the goalkeeping situation, and because of that, Manchester City could be looking at 3 new goalkeepers this summer. 3 goalkeepers out, 3 goalkeepers in, and that isn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination. We brought in Bettinelli to replace Scott Carson. Stefan Ortega will leave before transfer deadline day, which obviously is why Manchester City have chosen to replace a non-homegrown goalkeeper with a homegrown goalkeeper like James Trafford, and the plan is for James Trafford to be integrated over the next 12 months for him to potentially be Manchester City's first choice #1 goalkeeper from next summer. So it's pivotal to James Trafford's development that Ederson does stay and James Trafford acts as his understudy. What Manchester City probably don't want to do is bring in another goalkeeper. However, Galatasaray once more are flirting around Ederson, getting them agreements in place. Manchester City are insistent that no offers have come into them as of yet, but we know of Galatasaray's interest. We'll see now if they do firm things up, and I think that's where things could get really interesting in this window, because if I don't think it's any secret that Manchester City have made some approaches to Donnarumma's camp. Donnarumma's already announced that he's going to be leaving PSG in this window. He's already said farewell through social media to the PSG fans. So it is just a case that if Galatasaray firm up that interest and firm up them verbal agreements with Ederson into actually paying Manchester City's asking price for Ederson, then a transfer can be done, and then Manchester City can bring in another goalkeeper, which is very much looking like it's going to be Gigi Donnarumma. So I just want to have a quick look about if it is going to be Donnarumma that gets brought in, then what do we expect from a high quality goalkeeper who's vastly experienced for a goalkeeper that's still, in my opinion, relatively young? Because 26 years old is very young for a goalkeeper. He's still got well over a decade at the top level, and so that to me is a statement of intent from Manchester City when it comes to bringing in a goalkeeper, but he's also a proven winner. He's done incredibly well with Italy. He's done incredibly well with PSG, helping them to win the Champions League. So, he's a fantastic choice when it comes to looking for an out-and-out number one goalkeeper. And I think it's let me just have a look at the chat, because it just caught my eye. It's someone just mentioned it. It's like managing on FIFA is what it's like. I can't find it now. Someone put it though. Yeah, apologies, I can't find it. Someone said it's Hugo Viana's pretty much just, yeah, it is there. Jean, thanks for tuning in. Hugo Viana playing like FIFA in real life, where you're just thinking, I lost my high-quality goalkeeper. I need the next best available high-quality goalkeeper on the market. And boom, Manchester City want to go in for Donnarumma. And it sounds a little unbelievable, but all reliable sources are pointing towards that if Ederson leaves, City want a first-choice keeper, and they want Donnarumma, and I don't know how they're going to make Gigi Donnarumma and also James Trafford work in the long term. Do you go about not having a number one first choice goalkeeper, and you're just going to say to the goalkeepers that you're just going to be rotated, and Pep Guardiola's just going to make the final decision about which goalkeeper he thinks is going to be the better fit for that game? Because Donnarumma, I know, very good with his shot stopping. He's, to me, not as good as Ederson with his distribution. James Trafford's a very good goalkeeper with his distribution, but he's still got a bit of work to be done, because he's still, for me, young. He's a raw talent. He's, 22, 23 years old, and Donnarumma's not much older at 26 years old yet. He seems to have been around forever, and he's such a proven goalkeeper at the high end. And he's not just, he's 26 years old and he's about to turn 27. He doesn't turn 27 until next February. Standing in at, what's that into feet? Is that like 6'4"? 6'3", 6'4", very tall goalkeeper, very, very physical goalkeeper. And don't be concerned about his height. He's very good at getting low down for such a tall goalkeeper. It almost defies logic about how good he is at being able to get down and save the low shots. So just having a look at the summaries. Obviously had one injury over the last 12 months. Fairly consistent goalkeeper, averaging anywhere between 6.8 and 7.3, and that's a pretty solid average of a 7 out of 10. He plays for PSG. He's well used to their style of play, the dominating type of possession-based football. There'll be games where he has very little to do, but he's got to have a high level of concentration. And I do feel like where you see the very best out of Gianluigi Donnarumma in the big games. That's where he proves himself, and that for me is, if we're looking out and out at a comparison between Gigi Donnarumma and Ederson, Gigi Donnarumma is, for me, a big game player. If Manchester City have a huge Champions League second leg semi-final, for example, and you need a new goalkeeper to, go above and beyond to help you to get to the final, then someone like Donnarumma has got all the wealth of experience to be able to make that happen. So from that point of view, for me, he's a very, very exciting player. And I would have no problem at all with going down that football manager or FIFA style of managing and saying, do you know what, high quality goalkeeper leaves, we go out and bring the next best high quality goalkeeper in Gigi Donnarumma. Less than 12 months left on his PSG contract. Wouldn't cost the earth for Manchester City to bring him in. So to me, from all them point of views, it makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make so much sense is bringing in such a high quality young goalkeeper in James Trafford to be the understudy. And I think what's happened here is Manchester City have got a very much a plan in place for Ederson and James Trafford for the next 12 months, that they just weren't expecting Ederson to leave. But if he gets them agreements in place with Galatasaray, and Galatasaray start making formal offers to Manchester City, and Ederson lets Manchester City know that he wants to leave, which is very plausible that could happen. That's why Man City have made contact with Gigi Donnarumma, that that's going to be the case where Ederson could walk away and we're going to need to bring in a new goalkeeper. And bringing in an experienced, high-quality goalkeeper would make a lot of sense. It just means that the signing of James Trafford doesn't make as much sense as what it made at the time. And what I could see happening is over the next 12 to 24 months is if Gigi Donnarumma is seen as Man City's long-term first-choice goalkeeper, then James Trafford, if he can't force his way into a regular starting spot at Manchester City, would look to walk away. And it must be a bit frustrating for him that he's had some guarantees this summer that he could be a first-choice goalkeeper at other top-quality clubs like Newcastle United, and he may feel like he's wasted a year or two of his career. But what I really like about James Trafford is his mindset. I don't think he's got the mindset that you would think that he would have in this situation. I think James Trafford would be pretty excited about working with Gigi Donnarumma. I think James Trafford would be well up for the challenge of thinking to himself that he's really excited about the opportunity of potentially displacing one of the best goalkeepers out there in Donnarumma. And James Trafford has a heck of a lot of belief. There's nobody that believes in James Trafford as much as what James Trafford does, even from an early age coming through the Manchester City Academy, when he was out on loan at Accrington Stanley, when he was out on loan at Bolton Wanderers, when he was doing so well for Burnley. There was nobody that has as much belief in himself as what James Trafford does. And James Trafford will know full well that Ederson would be leaving in 12 months, and he knows full well that City would be looking at a high-quality goalkeeper to be brought in. Probably not expecting it to be as good of a goalkeeper as Gigi Donnarumma, but certainly expecting there to be high-quality competition for his place. And I think bringing in someone like Donnarumma could make James Trafford into an even better player when it comes to being a goalkeeper. I'm not suggesting that James Trafford's going to be able to displace Donnarumma, because I don't know what that's going to look like. He might be able to do that, he might not be able to do that. I don't know the answer for sure. What I do know is these two goalkeepers would challenge and work with each other to make each other better. And eventually what would happen is we'd hit the same situation that we had back in, 2009, 2010, when we had Joe Hart and Shay Given at Manchester City, two fantastic goalkeepers, one with an incredible amount of experience in Shay Given and a goalkeeper with plenty to prove like Joe Hart. And what happened there was Joe Hart had to put in man of the match performances to become Manchester City's number one and stay as Manchester City's number one. And so that's the level that you're looking at here for James Trafford to become City's number one. And he could still be Man City's number one, whether Ederson leaves or Ederson stays, or if Donnarumma doesn't come, or if Donnarumma does come to Manchester City. So I think James Trafford, in terms of his mindset, would be buzzing. I think he'd be well up for the challenge. He likes a challenge. He has firm belief in himself that he can be the number one goalkeeper. He may just be a bit disappointed that he's maybe not expecting the competition to be as fierce as maybe what it is. But when you're playing for a club like Manchester City are always going to be looking on the market for the very best players available for the positions that they are looking at. And that's why when it comes to looking at goalkeepers, if Ederson is to leave, Man City have got to be looking at high quality goalkeepers like Gigi Donnarumma, goalkeepers like Diogo Costa, Portugal's number one. These are high quality goalkeepers who have a lot to offer to Manchester City. So that's what James Trafford has to compete with. That's the level that James Trafford has to get to and go beyond if he wants to be the number one goalkeeper at Manchester City. It sounds mean, it sounds ruthless, but that's football. That's how it is. You don't get to the very top without having incredibly high expectations, and someone like Gigi Donnarumma I think could be a fantastic goalkeeper to bring in, as it's got here on his strengths, his handling, his reflexes. As I said, you put a low shot and he's very good with his shot stopping. He's an incredible goalkeeper to be able to just get low down and make some good saves. He's got a good penalty save on him. You know, us England fans will know that from the European Championships back in 2021 about Donnarumma obviously helping Italy to beat England on a penalty shootout in a high pressure situation with the country's eyes, his beloved country's eyes, watching him with all belief of that country behind him, and it can be incredibly pressurizing because sometimes it can be too much for players. But someone like Donnarumma, still a relatively young goalkeeper, more than up for the challenge, knows what it takes to win the Champions League. He knows what it takes to, go long periods of time without touching the football. For me, a really good choice. Should Ederson leave? I think the only thing that I'd be looking towards when it comes to Gigi Donnarumma is I think that there's some work to be done on distribution. He never does. When I've watched PSG, he never looked the most comfortable with the ball at his feet, and he will have the ball at his feet a heck of a lot, and Premier League teams like to press, so his distribution has got to be on point. Ederson doesn't make distribution mistakes, or certainly doesn't make that many, so that's the level that we're looking at when it comes to Gigi Donnarumma. And I think that I don't think he's a complete article, but I certainly think he's a high quality goalkeeper who can help Manchester City to achieve their objectives of trying to win the Premier League and the Champions League. And it very much sounds to me like Donnarumma, his agent's been suggesting that he wants to move to the Premier League. The only other club that's been linked with him is Manchester United, yet Donnarumma, since these links have come out with City, has been pushing hard to try and make this happen. So we'll see what does happen in terms of this transfer, but it's a transfer that does excite me a lot. I echo some of the thoughts here that Chill's put out and Ben's put out. I feel sorry for James Trafford as well. When he signed for Manchester City, he knew the expectations that he was signing up for the forthcoming season, and that potentially just weeks later is going to change. But as I said before, football is a ruthless business, and James Trafford has been at Manchester City before in the academy. He knows what Manchester City are about, and when you sign for a club like Manchester City, you've got to expect there to be high quality competition for your place, and if you're not up for the challenge, then you're going to leave the club very quickly. We've seen that with other players who have come in with a wrong attitude and a wrong approach, and great players on their day, but not good enough for the level that Manchester City are looking for. And I think James Trafford will be well up for the challenge. I think for challenging Donnarumma for the number one spot at Manchester City. So yeah, that's pretty much the situation for the goalkeepers. Adrian makes a good point here. Trafford earning nearly £50,000 a week. Ortega at 90. Ederson is on 100. Donnarumma on a heck of a lot over £200,000 a week. Manchester City do have quite a lot of wage available, with obviously Kevin De Bruyne leaving's freed up over £300,000 a week, and with Jack Grealish also leaving with freed up another £225,000 a week. So there is money to be spent, and Manchester City, in terms of the transfer market so far, have been very prudent. They could have spent a heck of a lot more if they wanted to. They've just gone out, brought players in who they think is the right fit for them, of the right calibre, right profile of player that they're looking for, and gone out and got the business done, without any minimal demand going into them transfers. It's not been high pressure transfers. It's not been a look at us kind of transfer. It's just been we've identified this player. What's the clauses and what's the possibility of this transfer happening? How do we make this transfer happen? Right, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Let's get X, Y, and Z done, and let's get that player over the line. And it's not uncommon here under Hugo Viana that we've seen so far this summer for Manchester City to say, well, we know the stance that we're looking at with a certain player. We know what's going to happen. I'm not going to waste any time taking a chance on a player taking forever to leave the club. I'm going to bring the players in who we need to be here right now, and then we'll focus more onto the outgoings and getting rid of that player later in the window. If they want to drag it to transfer deadline day, that's fine, but what will happen is that player won't be at Manchester City after transfer deadline day, and that's what they've done with James Trafford. We couldn't afford to wait for Stefan Ortega to leave. We've given ourselves a little bit more time. We brought James Trafford in and made things crystal clear to Stefan Ortega about he's got to find a new club. And, if Galatasaray start putting bids in for Ederson and Ederson tells Man City that he wants to leave, I wouldn't rule out Man City jumping the gun and saying, fine, not a problem, train on your own, you're not part of the first team squad anymore, we'll bring in Donnarumma, so we've got that sorted, and then we'll sort out that sale for Ederson later in the window to give ourselves again more time. So we'll see. It's been a very interesting approach, I think, from Hugo Viana this summer. And I think Jean, he's got muscle at Manchester City that can be flexed. Chicky was always quite a reserved sporting director. He was always very careful, always very thorough. Whereas Hugo Viana, I'm not saying he's a bull in a china shop, but he's certainly not scared to go out there and make deals happen very quickly. So we'll see. And, that's the goalkeeping situation that we're looking at. And it's actually quite a similar situation that we're looking at when it comes to a potential other transfer, when it comes to an attacker. Because at the moment, we don't know what's happening with Savinho. So if you're unaware, Tottenham Hotspur's been linked with a move. Apparently they've made an opening proposal, not a bid, a proposal to Manchester City, where they've said that they want to pay, I think it was £43.5 million to Manchester City for Savinho. Manchester City have knocked that proposal on the head and said, absolutely not. Savinho's worth a heck of a lot more money than £43.5 million. He's got 4 years left on his contract, 21 years old, bags of potential, a season of Premier League experience. He's got a huge second season coming up at Manchester City. We'd be pretty daft to sell him. And the only way that I would sell him is if two things happen. And these two things have to happen for this transfer to happen. Firstly, Savinho has got to tell Manchester City that he doesn't want to be at the club anymore, that he wants to leave and he wants to join Tottenham Hotspur. Them words have to leave Savinho's mouth for a transfer to happen to Tottenham Hotspur. Second of all, it then needs Tottenham Hotspur to start taking the transfer serious and go out and say that they're going to pay a whopping amount of money, a too good to turn down kind of offer to Manchester City. I've heard that City are looking for around £70 million. I have heard some rumours and flickers about maybe there might be a bit of room for negotiation on that City would be looking for maybe £60 million. So naturally, if you're Tottenham, £43.5 million is your opening proposal. City are asking for £70 million. There's nearly a £30 million difference. I would hope that Tottenham would come in with between a £5 and £10 million more offer, which, to be honest, if I was City, you don't want to insult the club that you're trying to buy a player off. I would hope that the next proposal would be worth £50+ million to Manchester City. That takes them to within £20 million of Man City's asking price and potentially maybe only £10 million away from Manchester City saying, do you know what, we'll accept that offer. Now, the negotiations for Savinho could take some time if Savinho says them words and if Tottenham Hotspur decide to start taking things serious. But we've dealt with Daniel Levy before. We did it with Harry Kane. Unsuccessful. Wasn't a nice transfer to negotiate and sort out. We couldn't make it happen. We've dealt with Daniel Levy before with Kyle Walker, and again, that was quite drawn out, frustrating, and it was much longer than it needed to be. And because of that, ultimately, Man City managed to get it over the line, but I think Man City since then have been a bit reluctant about doing any more bits of business with Daniel Levy and with Tottenham Hotspur. And if Tottenham Hotspur want a player from Manchester City who we don't want to sell, then they're going to have to stump up the cash. They're going to have to tempt Man City into that sale. Adrian, I've spoke before, I'd said if it were me, and I was looking at my value, I reckon 60 million sounds about right for a player that's got 4 years left on the contract. I like to think about if a player's got 1 year left on their contract, how much would you be willing to pay for said player going off their previous seasons and how well they're doing? Well, for me, Savinho, he's got bags of potential. He's not the complete article. For a wide player, if I were looking at Savinho, if he were the complete product right now, you would be looking at a player that's probably around, £40 million per season. That's right at the top end of the attackers right now. So, Florian Wirtz is a good example, £120 million that you were looking for in a total transfer. He's a very complete player. Savinho's not on that cusp of that kind of caliber of player, but I'm having a look at other transfers that have potentially happened and then trying to reflect that on the value. And I reckon £15 million per season for a player who's 21 years old, 4 years left on his contract. 15 times 4 takes you to 60 million. I'd be pretty happy with 60 million. I'd probably be willing to accept 50 million plus 10 million pounds in bonuses and a good sell-on fee included. I don't think Spurs would be that keen on throwing a buyback clause in, and then when you're talking about spending north of 40 million pounds, you're probably not going to get a buyback included. So that's what it's going to take for a sale of Savinho, which I do have my doubts about. I don't think Tottenham Hotspur will do that bit of business because that's just not really how Spurs do their business. But if they do decide to do that business, I think Savinho would be a fantastic signing for them. And I look at Spurs in their game against PSG yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, there were link-up plays were really good. You mix in the likes of Eze and Savinho that they've been linked with, playing on the left wing and on the right wing. All of a sudden you're looking at a really good team. Now, I did speak about on my transfer update the other day about if we do want to have a potential look at a Savinho sale, and it was to go to Tottenham Hotspur, because we play Tottenham Hotspur next weekend. Obviously, I don't think agreements are going to be found before this weekend games. It means that Tottenham Hotspur are going to have from Monday through to Friday 5 days there for them to find them agreements with Manchester City to have Savinho available. And if I were Manchester City, I'd be looking to just try and drag our heels a little bit. And I think it's a transfer that I think that would take a long time to get sorted. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for tuning in. So I don't think it'll be completed anytime soon. I think in the meantime, Manchester City are doing everything that they can to ensure that they've got all bases covered, which is where we've seen these links of Rodrygo. We know he's on the market. We know how much he's going to cost. We're looking at somewhere between 70 and 85 million pounds. So we're getting a sale of Savinho for 50 to 60 million pounds. Then we're having to invest an extra 15, 20 million pounds, and you get yourself a Rodrygo. And I think, in my honest opinion, I look at the two players right now. Rodrygo's a huge step up on Savinho. Rodrygo's still a very young player as well. But again, he's like Donnarumma. He seems to have been around for ages, and he's got a tremendous amount of experience. And season upon season, he always seems to have them season-defying moments in him. And again, as I was speaking about with Donnarumma, he's a big game player. In the big games where you need a player to be in the right place at the right time, it's what Rodrygo does very well. He scores memorable goals. Rodrygo's always been one of them players that's been a huge nuisance when Man City play against Real Madrid. It's always Vinicius Jr. this, Vinicius Jr. that, Jude Bellingham this, Jude Bellingham that, Kylian Mbappe this, Kylian Mbappe that. And every time I speak about Real Madrid, I'm like, there's a forgotten man in their attack. The ever dangerous Rodrygo. Give him time, give him space on the ball, he'll punish you. He will go out, I can guarantee. You give him 38 Premier League games, he is a player that would go out and score between 10 and 20 goals every season. And Manchester City, over the last season, have had a huge over-reliance on Erling Haaland scoring goals because other players haven't been chipping in with enough. Doku, got to be getting 10 plus Premier League goals this season. Savinho, if he stays, got to be 10 plus Premier League goals this season. We're getting to a point where it's not just about creating, it's not just about doing this well and doing that well. You need to be helping your team out. You need to be going out, bringing in the assists and the goals. And I think Rodrygo would be a huge step up, a big improvement. And I think to myself, I'd be gutted to lose Ederson and I'd be gutted to lose Savinho, but you tell me you replace these players with Donnarumma and Rodrygo, and I look at Man City's team and all of a sudden that team looks pretty frightening. Apart from maybe at right back, but we seem to be a bit allergic to dealing with the right back situation, because I feel like we're a right back away from maybe being a complete team. Bringing Donnarumma and Rodrygo, it's fantasy stuff. Yeah, there's a possibility that Man City could go out and potentially make this happen. So, just having a look then at Rodrygo and having a look at potentially what he could bring to Manchester City. 24 years old, again, doesn't turn 25 until the start of the new year. He's, 5'8", I think, Brazilian, right-footed winger. Pretty consistent overall. 7.34 is a decent overall rating. He's had a few injuries. I'm particularly impressed here once we've hit the point where the season gets really tough from January through to the end of the season in May. This period here, this is peak injury period. This is where players start to feel the wear and tear. He managed to keep himself injury-free there. Had a couple of injuries back in November and October, and had an injury, obviously, in May, ruling him out there. But seemed to have had a very good month there back in, January. So, yeah, good player. Looking at his strengths, passing, positioning, playmaker, he's a player that causes problems, a player that scores goals, he's a player that tends to be in the right place at the right time. If we can have good link-up play, then I think that would be fantastic. And I think the fact that Rodrygo's flirted a couple of times with Man City, he said that he enjoys watching Man City, he enjoys their style of play. He says that he thinks Man City are the best team in the world. He loves what Pep Guardiola's doing. I think Rodrygo sees himself as a perfect Pep Guardiola player. So as long as he's willing to work hard and listen to the coaches and improve on himself and be versatile, and, if he's going to be playing on the right wing, is he prepared to drop deep, pick up the ball in the deeper positions and help the team out? If you need him to drift over to help support an attack behind the striker of Erling Haaland or Omar Marmoush, what's the link-up play going to be like there? Can he drift over to the left-hand side? Because he'd be looking at this and he'd be wanting a little more freedom. And for me, having options on that right wing like Ryan Cherki and Rodrygo, I think are really good options on the right wing. Obviously, you've got the likes of Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden that can help feature there as well. But for me, if I were in charge at City, I'd be thinking about, we're wanting a bit more finesse, a bit more quality, a bit more oomph in our midfield. Having the options of Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden being able to play there more rather than being these versatile players who may need to go out wide, having quality players out on the wings is of high importance. And, having the link-up play, it's mouth-watering when I say this. The dribble ability and pace of Jeremy Doku. He's got outlets such as Phil Foden playing behind in midfield, Cherki helping to support. You've got players like Omar Marmoush, Erling Haaland playing through the middle, and Rodrygo on the other side. It's fantasy stuff. It's football manager stuff. But there is a possibility that Man City could make this happen. I mean, just having a look here at Real Madrid's minutes that Rodrygo has played, and you can see here about how he's chipping in and helping the team. I mean, he had an incredible 2022-2023 season, 29 goal contributions, but 25 goal contributions the season before, and everyone was saying he was rubbish last season, yet he's still come out with 23 goal contributions, 14 goals, 9 assists, and it's still an incredibly strong season. It's a far stronger statistical season than what Savinho or Jeremy Doku or Jack Grealish have had. So, as far as I'm concerned, Rodrygo is very much a huge step up for Manchester City, and he's a player that I would love at the club. So, yeah, I think so. I'd love to see him at Manchester City, and I think he'd be a really good player to be brought in. So, hopefully, we can make that one happen, in my opinion. He's obviously going to be very expensive with his wages. He's obviously going to be a very expensive transfer for Manchester City to sort with Real Madrid. But if Savinho's leaving and we're getting 50, 60 million pound for him, and we've got the potential to bring him in, for 70, 80 million pounds, for an extra 15, 20 million pounds of investment, we could have ourselves a high quality attacking player. And for me, having someone like Rodrygo in at Manchester City, not only big name, a shirt seller, is a player that, turns heads, but it to me, real good. Yeah, you see, you can argue for and against that, Adrian. I get it. I mean, Savinho had an incredible season with Girona. So from that aspect, he had a season of adapting with Manchester City because there's the potential of him not doing the second season. I can't really comment as to whether I think Savinho showed his full potential or not. Obviously, Tottenham Hotspur have seen enough to think that he's maybe worthwhile them spending a lot of money on to bring him in. So they've seen something. But Man City are choosing to send Vita Hayes to La Liga. We're choosing to, they want to anyway, send Claudio Echeverri to La Liga. So Manchester City, clearly the bosses, feel like La Liga's a high quality standard for helping to improve high quality young players to make them into even better players. So there may be a case where you're taking on teams who are going to give you a lot of time and space on the ball, and some of the teams down at the bottom of La Liga I don't think would make the cut in the Premier League, but they don't have the money available in the Premier League. And I always think that the Premier League is a big step up, because outside of the likes of Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona, the Premier League's got teams who can go out and cause so many problems. You got huge clubs in the Premier League. I mean, Newcastle and Aston Villa have been causing a lot of problems to the traditional Big Six, and obviously you got City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs. So there's Chelsea as well. There's lots of real good teams who can cause so many problems. So yeah. We'll see. Pep likes Rodrygo. Rodrygo likes Manchester City. If Savinho is to leave, Rodrygo's given the green light. Man City seems to be happy to give the green light, and for me, it's a very doable transfer that could spiral very quickly. So we'll see. Good question. Thank you very much, Selim, for tuning in. I personally feel like City are going to see Omar Marmoush as more of a left winger. So obviously Jack Grealish leaving means that we've got Jeremy Doku who play on the left hand side. Phil Foden can help cover there. Bernardo can kind of help cover there as well. But we've not got anything more to go at. So for me, my options would be Omar Marmoush competes with Erling Haaland as the striker. Omar Marmoush competes with Jeremy Doku on the left wing, and on the right wing, if we bring Rodrygo in, Rodrygo would be competing for the striker's position, of course, with Omar Marmoush and Erling Haaland, but you could also have Ryan Cherki who can compete on the right wing, and that's where you'd see that bit of competition, which Cherki's a good player because he can play on the left and he can play through the centre as well, and I think it's all about having them options, and this is something that we're going to see. So prepare yourselves for this. Man City, when it comes to the start of the Premier League, we're playing once every week. So we're not playing that many games. So we don't need to rotate. So players don't really get given their opportunity. And it can get very frustrating for players very quickly. Because of that, you'll see players who you think should be starting, not starting. And for me, you can only really judge Manchester City once we're playing every 3 to 4 days, which from September is going to be the case. And once we hit that point is when players are going to be getting played on a regular basis. They're going to be getting minutes here, there and everywhere because they've got to get minutes. You need that squad depth to help us. I think our squad's too big right now. It needs trimming down. Obviously, we need to sort out the futures of the players that need to leave. So Calvin Phillips, Stefan Ortega, sorted out Claudio Echeverri, Severin Ipan. We need to get these sorted as a matter of priority. If I were Hugo Viana, I'd look into get clarity on all them players over the next 7 to 10 days. And then beyond there is when I'd be looking or taking a good look at the first team squad, because in terms of our Champions League registrations, a bit different to our Premier League registrations. We are still one non-homegrown player. We've got one too many, so I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the likes of Nico Gonzalez, with Ilkay Gundogan, with Mateo Kovacic. These are looking like the players who are the odd one out at the minute for Manchester City, or it may just be a case where one of the players that we've currently got maybe doesn't get registered for the Champions League, and we assess again the situation in January. You've got to weigh up about which player is not going to be the player that we need to utilise. So I imagine Man City will be keeping an eye on what the injuries are looking like, because it was in this period where Manchester City obviously got that very serious injury with Rodri, and obviously him being out for over a year it's going to take before he gets back to his full fitness. These are just things that you've got to think about. I'm certain that Rodri will get registered for both the Champions League and the Premier League, but if we pick up an injury in the first couple of games of the Premier League and you've got a player that's going to be out for a prolonged period of time, for let's say 3 months or so, then you've got to weigh up, this player is going to be missing, 4, 5, maybe even 6 of the 8 Champions League games. In terms of disrupting your squad, I'd simply just not register them and say, work on your fitness, ready for, hopefully, Man City get into the latter stages of the competition. So we'll see. It's a lone saga, isn't it? These are the questions. Who knows? I have absolutely no idea. Roma offering a loan to City, a straight loan, makes things interesting, because City want him in La Liga, they want him at Girona, and they're not willing to negotiate on that. And now that AS Roma have knocked out the purchase option, you'd have thought that City would compromise with Echeverri and say, if you're happy to go out on loan, then get a year of experience in Serie A. And I could argue, as Adrian was saying before, about the developments in La Liga. La Liga's league is very different to the Premier League. Serie A, in terms of its physicality, certainly offers a bit more similarity to the Premier League, and I feel like if we were to send high quality young players on loan, I'd actually prefer for them to go to Serie A than I would for them to be playing in La Liga. I mean, just have a good look at Tijani Reinders and how well he's done in Serie A, and how well I'm expecting him to do at Manchester City, because I've never been more certain, if he keeps himself injury-free, of us having a high-quality central midfielder, one of the Premier League's best central midfielders, in my opinion. And yet he's got no Premier League experience. And that's all just based on how well he's done with City so far and how well he's done in Serie A, because I think Serie A has a lot of similarities with the Premier League, in particular with its physicality. So if it was me, I mean, I'd probably prefer for him to go to AS Roma. I'm actually a bit surprised that Man City didn't take up AS Roma's offer of the purchase option, £28 million. We profit £16 million off Claudio Echeverri, and we have the option to pay an extra £6 million on top of that fee to help bring him back to Manchester City. And I always feel like having purchase options and obligations to buy always encourage the buying team to utilise a player rather than a straight loan. I've already expressed my concern about Vita Hayes' loan to Girona, and Girona underutilising youngsters that have been sent from City to Girona in the past. And if he ends up having a wasted loan there and doesn't get as many minutes as he wanted and as many starts, then all of a sudden his career can stall very quickly, and you can get stuck in that loan rut. And that's what we've got to be really careful of. So we will see. I don't think Donnarumma in this goalkeeping situation will be sorted before the Wolves game. I suspect that in terms of transfers in the next 24 hours or so, that things will go very quiet and things won't start to pick up until Monday, as Man City will start to focus on all things Wolverhampton Wanderers and all things Premier League until that game is done, and then they'll go full focus again throughout next midweek, Monday through to Friday, before our next game against Spurs is what I'm expecting to happen. So I reckon, Brooklyn, thanks for tuning in, that Rodrygo would be a good signing for City, in my honest opinion. So speaking of transfers, I'm going to go and get my transfer update done for you guys. So that'll be out in the next hour for you guys to enjoy, with, of course, more updates on the players that we've spoken about today in Donnarumma and Rodrygo. So do stay tuned for that. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's stream. We are aiming for 200 likes, so any help towards that, guys, would be much appreciated. Don't forget as well to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe as well if you're new around here. Press that red button, press the bell, and put your push notifications on. Also, don't forget social media links there in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. And I'll see you all again next week for the next transfer show, episode number 12. I will also be doing a live watch along of Man City's away game against Wolves on Saturday evening for you guys to enjoy. So do stay tuned for that, and I'd appreciate anybody joining me for that. We can speak about some more transfers on there if you so wish. And yeah, I'll see you all again real soon. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.